Silent growth begins the moment you stop announcing your plans and start honoring them in private. Most people feel the urge to tell others what they are about to do, not because the goal requires sharing, but because validation feels like progress. Talking creates the illusion of movement, but real growth happens quietly, away from applause and explanation. When you decide to improve yourself without telling anyone, you remove pressure, comparison, and unnecessary expectation. You allow yourself to grow at your own pace instead of performing progress for an audience. Silent growth is powerful because it is honest. It is not driven by image, but by intention. When no one is watching, excuses lose their power and discipline becomes real. One of the biggest advantages of silent growth is freedom from external opinion. The moment you tell people about your goals, their reactions begin to influence you. Some will doubt you, some will praise you too early, and some will project their own fears onto your plans. Even encouragement can be distracting because it can satisfy the ego before the work is done. Silent growth protects your focus. It allows you to work without defending your choices or explaining your pace. When improvement happens privately, it belongs entirely to you. This ownership builds internal confidence, the kind that does not depend on approval or recognition. Silent growth also teaches patience. When no one knows what you are building, there is no urgency to show results. You are free to be slow, to make mistakes, to adjust quietly. This patience is essential because meaningful change rarely happens quickly. People often quit self-improvement not because it is too hard, but because they expect visible results too soon. Silent growth removes this trap. You are not trying to prove anything to anyone, so you are less likely to abandon the process when progress feels invisible. You learn to respect accumulation, trusting that small, consistent actions will eventually compound. Another reason silent growth is effective is that it reduces pressure. Public goals create public expectations, and expectations create anxiety. When others know what you are trying to achieve, you may feel rushed or judged, even if no one says anything directly. Silent growth removes this psychological weight. You are free to fail privately and learn without embarrassment. This safety encourages experimentation, and experimentation accelerates learning. When failure is not exposed, it becomes information instead of shame. Silent growth creates an environment where improvement feels possible rather than threatening. Improving yourself quietly also strengthens discipline. Discipline grows best in silence because it is tested when motivation fades. Anyone can feel motivated after talking about goals, but discipline shows up on ordinary days when no one is cheering. Silent growth forces you to rely on commitment rather than excitement. You act because you decided to, not because you announced it. This builds self-trust. Each time you follow through without external accountability, you prove to yourself that you are reliable. This reliability is more valuable than motivation because it does not disappear when emotions change. Silent growth also helps you avoid comparison. When you share your goals, you inevitably compare your progress to others, either consciously or unconsciously. Comparison distorts self-improvement by shifting focus from growth to ranking. Silent growth keeps your attention inward. You measure progress against who you were yesterday, not against someone else's highlight reel. This internal measurement is healthier and more sustainable. It allows you to appreciate small wins without diminishing them through comparison. There is also humility in silent growth. You are not trying to impress anyone or seek admiration. You are improving because you know you need to, not because you want recognition. This humility keeps ego in check. Ego often sabotages growth by making people protect an image instead of pursuing truth. When growth is silent, ego has nothing to protect. You are free to admit weaknesses, confront bad habits, and start again without explanation. This honesty accelerates improvement. Silent growth does not mean isolation or secrecy born from fear. It is not about hiding out of insecurity, but about choosing privacy for effectiveness. You can still learn from others, seek guidance, and accept support when needed. The difference is that you are not broadcasting intentions prematurely. You let results speak later, when they are real. This approach reduces talk and increases substance. Over time, people notice change without you announcing it, and that recognition, when it comes, is earned rather than requested. Another important aspect of silent growth is resilience. When no one knows what you are working on, setbacks feel less dramatic. You are less likely to quit because no one is watching you struggle. This privacy allows you to persist quietly through difficult phases. Many goals fail not because people lack ability, but because they cannot tolerate public struggle. Silent growth removes that obstacle. You can struggle without shame, which makes perseverance easier. As you continue improving quietly, you begin to notice a shift in your mindset. You become less interested in talking and more interested in doing. You stop seeking reassurance and start trusting process. This shift is subtle, but it changes how life feels. You feel calmer, more focused, and less reactive. Growth becomes part of your routine rather than an event. This integration is powerful because it turns self-improvement into a lifestyle rather than a temporary project. Silent growth also prepares you for long-term success. When improvement is driven internally, it lasts longer. External motivation fades, but internal standards remain. By growing quietly, you build habits that do not rely on attention. These habits survive stress, boredom, and distraction. They become part of who you are, not just something you do when inspired. In the end, silent growth is not about disappearing. It is about developing strength before exposure. It is about building foundations before inviting attention. When you improve yourself without telling anyone, you give yourself the space to grow fully, honestly, and sustainably. You are not rushing to be seen. You are preparing to be solid. And that quiet preparation is often what makes the difference between temporary change and lasting transformation. As silent growth continues, discipline becomes the central force that shapes your progress. Discipline is different when no one knows what you are doing because it is no longer supported by external accountability or social pressure. You wake up, work, and improve without anyone checking on you or expecting updates. This exposes the truth about commitment. When growth is public, motivation is often borrowed from attention. When growth is silent, motivation must come from within. This is uncomfortable at first because there are no quick emotional rewards, but this discomfort is exactly what builds strength. Discipline formed in silence is stronger because it is chosen repeatedly without applause. Over time, this discipline becomes reliable. You stop negotiating with yourself and start acting according to standards. This reliability creates momentum, and momentum makes growth feel natural rather than forced. Silent growth also changes how you experience consistency. Consistency thrives in privacy because there is no pressure to perform perfectly. When people know your goals, you may feel the need to show visible progress constantly, which leads to burnout or discouragement. Silent growth removes this pressure. You are free to be consistent rather than impressive. You can show up quietly on days when effort feels low and progress feels invisible. These ordinary days matter most because they build habits that last. Silent consistency compounds quietly, and when results finally appear, they seem sudden to others but inevitable to you. This compounding effect is one of the greatest advantages of improving yourself without announcement. Another benefit of silent growth is improved focus. When you are not explaining your plans or responding to opinions, your mental energy stays directed toward execution. Explanation consumes attention, and attention is limited. By removing unnecessary conversation, you protect your focus. Focus allows deeper work, and deeper work produces better results. Silent growth creates a mental environment where you can concentrate without interruption. You begin to notice how much energy was previously lost to talking, justifying, and reacting. Once that energy is reclaimed, progress accelerates. Silent growth also strengthens self-awareness. When no one is watching, you are forced to confront your true habits. There is no image to maintain, no story to tell. You see clearly when you procrastinate, when you avoid difficulty, and when you make excuses. This honesty is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Growth cannot happen without awareness. Silent improvement removes distractions that once masked behavior. You begin to understand your patterns deeply, and this understanding allows you to change them intentionally. You are no longer guessing why progress stalls. You can see it directly. Another important aspect of silent growth is emotional regulation. When growth is public, emotions are amplified. Praise can inflate ego, and criticism can discourage effort. Silent growth reduces these emotional swings. Without constant feedback, your emotional state becomes more stable. You are less reactive and more grounded. This stability is important because emotional volatility disrupts consistency. When emotions settle, effort becomes smoother. You learn to work regardless of mood, which is a critical skill for long-term improvement. Silent growth trains emotional independence, allowing you to continue even when feelings fluctuate. Improving yourself quietly also helps you redefine success. Public growth often emphasizes visible milestones and external validation. Silent growth emphasizes internal change. You begin to value discipline over recognition, effort over attention, and progress over praise. This redefinition is freeing because internal success is always available. Even on difficult days, you can succeed by acting in alignment with your values. This perspective reduces frustration and increases resilience. You stop feeling behind because your progress is measured privately and honestly. Silent growth also builds confidence in a healthier way. Confidence gained from public approval is fragile because it depends on continued validation. Confidence built in silence is stable because it is rooted in evidence. Each time you improve without being seen, you reinforce the belief that you are capable. This belief does not need confirmation. Over time, you trust yourself more deeply because you have watched yourself show up when no one was watching. This trust becomes a quiet confidence that does not need to announce itself. There is also protection in silent growth. When you do not announce your plans, you protect them from unnecessary interference. People often give advice based on their own limitations, not your potential. Silent growth shields you from discouraging comments, unsolicited opinions, and comparison traps. This does not mean avoiding learning from others, but it means choosing input intentionally rather than absorbing it automatically. You become selective about influence, which improves decision-making. This selectivity strengthens autonomy, allowing you to grow according to your own direction. Silent growth further develops patience. Without external deadlines created by public declarations, you can respect the natural pace of improvement. Some skills take time to develop, and rushing them leads to shallow results. Silent growth allows depth. You can spend longer refining fundamentals without feeling pressure to showcase progress. This depth is valuable because it creates mastery rather than surface-level change. Mastery grows quietly and reveals itself through consistency rather than announcements. As you continue improving without telling anyone, you begin to detach from outcomes you cannot control. You stop worrying about how progress will be received and focus on whether it is real. This detachment reduces anxiety. You are no longer performing improvement. You are living it. This shift creates peace because peace comes from alignment, not recognition. You feel less rushed, less distracted, and more present. Silent growth also teaches humility. You accept that progress does not make you superior. It simply makes you better than you were. This humility keeps learning alive. When ego is quiet, curiosity grows. You remain open to feedback when it matters and ignore noise when it does not. This balance is difficult to maintain in public growth, but easier in private. Silent growth keeps you grounded. By this stage, improvement has become routine. You no longer see self-improvement as something special or dramatic. It is simply part of how you live. This normalization is powerful because it makes growth sustainable. You do not burn out chasing motivation or recognition. You move steadily, guided by discipline and focus. This steady movement may not attract attention immediately, but it builds something solid. Silent growth prepares you for moments when attention eventually arrives. When results become visible, you are not dependent on praise because growth did not rely on it. You remain calm, focused, and grounded. This independence protects you from arrogance and insecurity alike. You are not surprised by progress because you earned it quietly. In the end, discipline, consistency, and focus formed in silence create a foundation that public effort rarely achieves. Silent growth may feel slow, but it is strong. It may feel unnoticed, but it is effective. And as it continues, it reshapes not just what you do, but who you are. As silent growth continues over time, it begins to change not just your habits, but your identity. Identity is shaped by repeated behavior, not by intentions or announcements. When you improve yourself quietly, you are repeatedly showing yourself who you are becoming, and this evidence is powerful. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to change and start seeing yourself as someone who does the work. This shift matters because behavior follows identity more easily than motivation. When growth becomes part of who you believe you are, consistency feels natural rather than forced. Silent growth accelerates this identity shift because it removes performance. You are not acting for an audience. You are acting in alignment with your standards. Silent growth also transforms confidence in a meaningful way. Confidence built in silence is calm, not loud. It does not seek attention or reassurance because it is grounded in proof. Each quiet effort, each disciplined choice, and each private correction reinforces the belief that you can rely on yourself. This belief does not need to be announced. It shows up in how you carry yourself, how you speak, and how you respond to challenges. People may notice a change in you without being able to name it. That change comes from internal stability, not external validation. Silent confidence is resilient because it does not collapse when attention fades or criticism appears. Another powerful aspect of silent growth is how it reshapes your relationship with failure. When improvement is public, failure often feels embarrassing because it threatens your image. In silence, failure becomes less dramatic. It is simply part of the process. You correct mistakes privately, adjust strategies, and move forward without explanation. This reduces fear. When fear of failure decreases, experimentation increases. You are more willing to try difficult things because mistakes no longer carry social consequences. This willingness accelerates learning. Silent growth creates a safe internal space where failure is tolerated and used constructively. Silent growth also encourages deeper self-respect. Self-respect does not come from praise, it comes from integrity. When you do what you said you would do, even when no one knows, you build integrity. Integrity strengthens self-respect because it creates alignment between values and actions. Over time, this alignment becomes a source of inner peace. You are less conflicted internally because you are not pretending or performing. This peace is subtle but powerful. It makes decision-making clearer and reduces emotional exhaustion. Silent growth replaces inner conflict with quiet certainty. As identity strengthens, you also become less reactive to others. When growth is public, opinions can influence behavior, either through encouragement or doubt. Silent growth minimizes this influence. You become less dependent on feedback because your reference point is internal. This independence is freeing. You no longer feel the need to explain your pace, justify your priorities, or defend your choices. You act based on what you know is right for you. This autonomy improves emotional regulation. You respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively because your sense of direction is stable. Silent growth also deepens focus on long-term outcomes. Without external pressure to show quick results, you are more willing to invest in foundational skills and habits. You understand that long-term improvement often requires patience and repetition. This perspective reduces frustration. You stop expecting dramatic change and start appreciating gradual progress. Over time, this mindset produces more durable results. Silent growth favors depth over speed, and depth creates mastery. Mastery takes time, and silence provides the space needed for it to develop. Another important change is how you experience motivation. Motivation becomes less emotional and more practical. Instead of waiting to feel inspired, you rely on routine and structure. Silent growth trains you to act regardless of mood. This skill is essential because moods fluctuate while progress requires consistency. When action is no longer dependent on feeling good, improvement becomes reliable. You show up on good days and difficult days alike. This reliability strengthens identity further, creating a cycle of growth that sustains itself. Silent growth also sharpens awareness of distractions. When you are not announcing goals, you become more conscious of what actually supports or hinders progress. You notice how unnecessary conversations, excessive consumption, and constant stimulation drain energy. This awareness leads to simplification. You remove what does not serve growth and protect what does. Simplification increases clarity. A clear environment supports a clear mind, and a clear mind supports focused action. Silent growth naturally leads to a more intentional life. As improvement continues quietly, you may notice a shift in how others respond to you. People may sense change before they understand it. Some may be curious, others indifferent, and some uncomfortable. Because your growth was not announced, you are less affected by these reactions. You do not feel the need to explain or justify. This detachment is healthy. It allows you to continue growing without being pulled into unnecessary social dynamics. Silent growth protects momentum by reducing emotional interference. Silent growth also prepares you for moments when visibility increases. When results eventually become visible, you are not overwhelmed by attention, because attention was never the foundation. You remain grounded. Praise does not inflate ego, and criticism does not derail effort. This balance is rare, and it comes from growing without relying on external reinforcement. Silent growth builds internal standards that remain steady regardless of circumstances. At this stage, improvement feels integrated into daily life. It is no longer a project or challenge, it is simply how you live. This integration is important because it makes growth sustainable. You do not burn out chasing transformation because transformation is gradual and ongoing. Silent growth removes urgency and replaces it with commitment. Commitment does not rush, it persists. Ultimately, silent growth reshapes how you see yourself and your potential. You no longer need to announce who you are becoming because you are already becoming it. The work speaks internally before it speaks externally. This quiet transformation is often the most powerful kind because it is rooted in truth rather than appearance. You are not improving to be seen. You are improving to be solid. And solidity lasts. As silent growth reaches its mature stage, you begin to understand that its greatest reward is not recognition, success, or approval, but peace. Peace comes from knowing that you are improving honestly, without pretending, rushing, or performing. When growth is silent, it belongs to you alone. You are no longer split between who you are and who you are trying to appear to be. This alignment removes inner tension. Many people feel constantly exhausted, not because life is difficult, but because they are living two lives, one real and one performative. Silent growth ends this division. You act according to your values, whether anyone sees it or not, and that consistency creates inner calm. Silent growth also teaches you to trust time. When you are not announcing goals, you stop trying to control how quickly outcomes appear. You allow progress to unfold naturally. This trust in time reduces anxiety, because anxiety often comes from forcing results. Silent growth reminds you that meaningful change takes repetition, patience, and persistence. You learn to stay committed even when progress feels slow, because you are no longer chasing visible proof. This patience strengthens resilience. You stop asking, "Is this working?" and start trusting the process because you see yourself showing up consistently. Another powerful outcome of silent growth is freedom from comparison. Comparison thrives in public spaces, where everyone is measuring progress against each other. Silent growth removes you from this competition. You stop worrying about who is ahead or behind. Your only reference point becomes who you were yesterday. This inward focus protects motivation. Instead of feeling discouraged by others' achievements, you feel encouraged by your own consistency. This shift makes improvement sustainable because it is no longer tied to external benchmarks. Silent growth also refines your sense of purpose. When no one is watching, only what truly matters survives. You stop pursuing goals that exist mainly to impress others and focus on goals that genuinely improve your life. This clarity simplifies decision-making. You become more selective about where you invest energy, time, and attention. Simplicity creates strength. A focused life moves forward more steadily than a scattered one. Silent growth naturally leads to a more intentional way of living. As you continue improving quietly, you also become more comfortable with uncertainty. You no longer need constant reassurance that you are on the right path. You accept that doubt is part of growth and that clarity often comes after action, not before it. This acceptance reduces hesitation. You move forward even when the outcome is unclear, trusting your ability to adapt. This adaptability is a form of confidence. It tells you that even if things do not go as planned, you can adjust and continue. Silent growth builds this confidence because it is based on experience, not hope. Silent growth also strengthens emotional independence. You stop relying on praise to feel motivated and stop collapsing under criticism. Because your effort is private, emotions lose their control over your behavior. You learn to work through boredom, frustration, and fatigue without needing encouragement. This emotional steadiness is rare, and it is one of the greatest benefits of growing in silence. When emotions no longer dictate action, progress becomes reliable. Over time, silent growth reshapes how you relate to success. Success no longer feels like an event, but like a byproduct of consistency. When achievements arrive, they feel natural rather than shocking. You are not overwhelmed by them because you prepared quietly. This preparation keeps you grounded. You do not feel the need to prove yourself because proof already exists in your habits. This grounded success is more stable than sudden achievement because it is supported by discipline rather than luck. Silent growth also changes how others perceive you, even if you never explain yourself. People may notice that you are calmer, more focused, or more confident without knowing why. This quiet influence is powerful because it is authentic. You are not trying to inspire or impress. You are simply living differently. If others are motivated by your change, it happens naturally. If they are not, you are unaffected. Silent growth keeps your direction independent of reaction. Another important realization is that silent growth protects you from burnout. When growth is loud, it often comes with pressure to maintain momentum publicly. Silent growth removes this pressure. You can rest when needed without feeling like you are disappointing anyone. You can slow down without feeling like you are failing. This flexibility allows you to continue long term. Growth that respects rest lasts longer than growth driven by urgency. As silent growth becomes your default approach, you stop seeing self-improvement as something special or dramatic. It becomes normal. This normalization is powerful because it removes resistance. You do not need motivation to improve. Improvement is simply part of your routine. This is where real transformation happens, not in moments of inspiration, but in ordinary days handled with discipline.